So every show has a demographic it tries to appeal to. Every single one. It starts with the idea of what the show is and continues into how the characters are formed, what is appealing about said characters, and how they plan to tell a relatable story. Is it for children? Is it for adults? Is it for men or women or both? Will young people like it, or is it for more of an older crowd? Whatever the case, all of these questions are usually thought of and answered well before a show ever comes out. But what if you had a show that didn't do any of that? A show that somehow made it out of the writer's room, passed all the test screenings, and actually made it onto TV. Velma, by and large, was always going to be a tough sell critically. By any and every marketing metric there is, it just didn't have a chance for a variety of reasons, the main one being that it never truly had an intended target market. We know this because of how the show carries itself, trying to appeal to everyone, while managing to also turn off everyone all at the same time. Conventional marketing will tell you that studios look at demographics for a reason. They need to understand the audience that they're trying to appeal to, because that's the audience that will tune in and ultimately make them money. By and large, most studios also understand that you cannot appeal to everybody, but Velma outright refuses to acknowledge that, instead opting for the approach of, you'll understand, and if you don't, that's on you.
This day is bananas, B-A-N-A.
I don't have a headache. I'm just preparing.
But what happens when no one understands, including the potential target audiences you seemingly think you're going for? Because, as of now, the show isn't just disliked by one group or entity, it's disliked by nearly everyone.
What do you mean everyone?
And that's a shame, because people in general really like Velma as a character, within all of the previous Scooby-Doo shows and movies. In fact, she's one of the more popular old-school cartoon characters, and while she may not instantly be the most recognizable like, say, Scooby or Shaggy, she certainly is, at least for those who have seen her within past shows, the most relatable.
We ain't got no rooms.
But your sign in the window says vacancy.
That sign's broken.
But it's a painted sign.
And that's Velma's biggest problem. They took what made not just her, but the entire gang special and turned it into a joke. But we've seen this before. Modern, updated, and live adaptations of popular longtime shows are nothing new. Some are good, some are bad. But at the very least, most of them still try to include things from the original shows that they are based on. It works for marketing purposes and helps an audience understand the connection. Velma doesn't do any of that. In fact, in some cases it's unrecognizable, which is crazy to think about when you consider that Velma isn't just supposedly adapting any old show. It's adapting Scooby-Doo, a children's show that's been around for half a century and has multiple examples of each person within the gang shown in different mediums with updated personalities. In fact, since 1970, every generation can make the case that they have their own version of Scooby-Doo, and while things have changed, the spirit has always remained consistent. But Velma takes that spirit and dims it pretty quickly, taking the original characters and turning them into something that's completely bastardized, if they're even there at all.
I'd laugh, Fred, if I wasn't standing next to this secret comedian over here. Man, if I found humor attractive, I would be all over you right now. Oh well.
What? And that's what's interesting, because Velma has always been a nice, highly intelligent problem solver, who usually is the one to solve a lot of the crimes but generally waits to make sure that her deductions are correct. She's also the one who doesn't subscribe to paranormal or alien expectations.
The aliens need my brain! They're gonna steal my brain!
Must not be very complicated plans.
She absolutely needs her glasses, her catchphrase is jinkies, and for the most part, her love interests have always been up to interpretation and highly dependent on which iteration of the Scooby-Doo you saw. That's the character. That's what we've been marketed to when it comes to her. And what she is in the Max show is none of that. In fact, you can make a strong case that she's not actually Velma at all. She's Mindy Kaling.
Well, I manage my department, and I've been doing that for several years now. And God, I've learned a lot of life lessons along the way.
Your department's just you, right?
Yes, Jim, but I am not easy to manage.
She has Mindy's personality, her jokes, her reasoning, and the sooner you accept that, the easier the show is to actually digest. But once digested, you do begin to realize something else. That the adaptation within Velma isn't actually an adaptation at all. Velma, quite simply, is its own idea that would have never truly gotten off the ground if it wasn't under the banner of an established franchise and brand. Don't believe me? Ask yourself this one question. If Velma was presented to a studio under its own IP, so not connected to Scooby-Doo or the character of Velma at all, how exactly do you think it would market itself? It has very few jokes that land, some of which are baffling in the way that they're made. It has a character it refuses to define and give any real redeemable traits to. It tries way too hard to be cool and edgy, and the show overall has little structure. I don't know about you, but to me it sounds like something that would fail immediately at test screenings, assuming it even got there at all.
Jinkies.
And so enter Scooby-Doo, a longtime IP to help sell something that would have been a hard sell in the first place, except it's not Scooby-Doo, not even remotely close. Velma just needed the Scooby-Doo name for marketing purposes because of the eyes that would come with it. Thus, it ultimately leaves you confused, wondering who exactly is this for? People on both the left and the right side of the political spectrum aren't fans of it. Critics aren't overly excited about it. It certainly doesn't seem to be for anyone within the LGBTQ community with the way it flip-flops, and it definitely isn't for fans of the original Scooby-Doo or the multiple iterations of it. It also won't be winning any awards for animation or story anytime soon, all of which effectively make it seem like the show is not for anyone at all. And ultimately, it speaks to a much bigger fact that not every childhood show needs to be reimagined into something it was never meant to be in the first place.